Hello, and welcome to 6DOF Reviews. I'm Pete Austin, and today we will be tackling Titans. And by that, of course, I mean that it is time to take a look at Skydance's Behemoth. For many of you, like myself, Skydance's Behemoth represents one of the three big money titles on the card for 2024. We have, of course, already had Batman, we have had Metro, and now, at the turning of the tide, comes Behemoth. Now, we only just got access to Behemoth yesterday, and as such, unfortunately, will not be able to give you a full review. We have also postponed our regular recording of the podcast so that we could stop and play Behemoth enough to give you an impressions video. I have played, I would say, an hour and 20 minutes. So I have got up to the first big Behemoth battle. And so I'm talking to you now from the perspective of somebody who is about an hour and a smidge into this campaign. So, Behemoth starts off, it's narrative driven, the stage is set really nicely with a bit of eerie, voice in your ear narrative. There is a plague, a blight, not a virus, but a curse that is infecting the land and making people violent and insane. And you have it, it's in you, and only you can get to the root of the curse and destroy it in time to save yourself, and in fact, your whole village. You are altruistic. Really, it's a story of somebody trying to save their mummy. And off you go, wandering into the snowy wilderness, armed with just a dagger and a bunch of pluck, and you are setting about to destroy these giant Titan-style entities called behemoths. For people who are familiar with the flat-screen Shadow of the Colossus, apparently there is a lot of inspiration drawn here from that. I've not played it myself, so I can't speak to that directly, but if you are interested in a game where you play a combat-forward, narrative-driven game to get to gigantic boss fights that see you taking down giant monsters, then this could well be for you. So, I guess the first thing that you're going to want to know is it any good? And I'm quite happy to say yes. I am really, really enjoying it. Now, one of the things that I will say is it feels very familiar to me, and in the best possible way. So you can tell Skydance's pedigree comes forward in this game. So I'm going to ignore Retribution, Saints and Sinners Retribution, which was a bit of a buggy mess. But I still maintain that the original Saints and Sinners is still one of the best single-player story games that you can play in VR. I think it's really fantastic. And a huge part of that is the attention to detail that Skydance managed to get into the way the game world feels. Now, although we're in a different setting and we've got different mechanics at play in Skydance's Behemoth, there's something that just intrinsically feels so similar to me. And again, I don't mean that in that it lacks originality. They've taken the best parts of how their game engine works and they've built upon that. So even when it comes down to your arms and your hands and how you interact with objects, how you store objects, a lot of the audio cues that you get, there's a lot of things there that just really make you feel, this is a Skydance game. I get it. This is a bit familiar to me. So that is to say that it is to that same level of quality. If you've played Saints and Sinners and you've enjoyed it, as I hope you have, then that's the benchmark of quality that you can expect going into Behemoth. So as you progress through Behemoth, you start off with a little bit of light combat. It's broadly melee focused, so it's swords and shields and armor and axes and clang, clang, clang. Went the trolley? No, that didn't really fit. And the combat is okay. I would like it to be a little bit more free-flowing and fluid like the combat in Asgard's Wrath 2, which still to me is about the best combat in VR. But this is quite good. It's reminiscent of Blade and Sorcery, and I almost got myself in trouble for introducing the game as Saints and Sinners cosplaying as Blade and Sorcery, or in fact Saints and Sinners on its way to the Renaissance Fair. But that would be reductive, and we wouldn't do that. I thought that was kind of funny, actually. So the combat, it's not as deep physics as Blade and Sorcery. So it's not quite the stab fest where you drag everybody around on the end of your sword, but it does have a really good, well-implemented physics system at its heart. Again, same physics system seems to be in play that we had in Saints and Sinners. So the combat is, again, it's blocking, it's parrying, it's about reading the animations correctly to understand the direction that the swing is coming from, using the correct weapon for the correct type of attack that you're doing. So, for example, an axe attack is going to be better placed at destroying shields or knocking helmets off, and then once shields are destroyed and helmets are knocked off, a bit of quick stabby with one of the many swords is going to see you doing some really impressive damage. There's bows and arrows, and the bow mechanics are decent. They're quite similar to Saints and Sinners. And I've found that the bow mechanics are actually really fun to use. The only thing is, apparently everybody that you're fighting is a ninja and can sidestep an arrow being shot at them from 10 paces away. So you do have to... It's not so simple that you can just pick everybody off from a distance. There is a stamina system, which at first, when I very first played it, and I'm not going to lie, the first time I played it, I was maybe a little bit tipsy, and I got really frustrated because I thought the stamina system was the same as the really oppressive stamina system used in Saints and Sinners, but it's not. It looks really similar. It's the 2 bars, one for health and one for stamina. Stamina only really goes down as you are either climbing, which I love, by the way. I think it's about time we had a bit more of this, where you can't just indefinitely hold yourself up by your fingers. So as you climb, if you have to do a long climb, you really have to pace through it quite quickly, because if your stamina runs out before you get to the end of it, you're falling to your death. The other time the stamina system is in play is in combat, and so when you start, your stamina is, I guess, at its lowest, and you can do sort of 3 or 4 wild swings before your stamina runs out, and you have to back up and let it recharge. So you can't just go in whirling your arms around, just going, I'm going to attack everybody. Yeah. I think it's cleverly implemented, because what it doesn't do is slow the gameplay down or make it feel restrictive, but it does create a tactical element to the combat where you actually have to think about what you're doing. You can't wiggle sword your way through it. You need to put momentum behind every swing, and of course the more momentum you put behind your swings, the more stamina is taken off your meter. And so you have to kind of get in, attack, lunge, get back out, recharge, and it adds a nice dynamic to the combat, which I was very happy to see.
I'll miss these bastards.
Sound-wise, it's really good. It's I feel bad because I keep saying this. I keep referring it to their previous game. But again, it's at that bar that has been set already of great audio design, spatial sounds that make you aware of what's coming at you from any direction that you need to, the right cues that are telling you that certain key events have happened. So sound, it's really, really good. Graphically, I think it's great. I think it looks fantastic. And it's not going to be completely one note, which I was really worried about. I really thought, watching a lot of the trailers that just show you walking through the snow, that I get it, that's probably an easy background texture to render, so that's probably why you would do a game in the snow. And I thought, oh god, if the whole thing is going to be like that, I'm going to get bored quickly. But already, even within the first hour, and I don't think I'm giving away any spoilers, but I've seen 2 different scenery changes occur, and each one of those has its own personality and character and is vibrant and is well represented. There's a little bit of jank from time to time. There's a little bit of popping where background effects will kind of come in, but it's not that bad. It's not bad at all, in fact. A couple of the textures or shapes, like there's one bit where a boulder shatters and all these little bits of boulder come rolling down the hill, and they look very, 10 years ago Polygon. But it's not a big deal. Like, honestly, that happens, and you go, oh, okay. And then you walk around the corner into a stunning vista at the top of a mountain. You're like, okay, this is great. This is really, really good. I really like the fact that they haven't tried to do a full body IK. You've got full arms, which is great, but you don't have the chest. I think that is always really hard to do when you have chest and legs. I very rarely see it done in a way that doesn't feel wrong and just a little bit off. And so I respect that. I like the fact that they gave you full arms and nothing else, because once you're in it, you're really not looking for that full body. It's perfectly acceptable just to have the arms, and the arms are really well done. All the positioning of the elbows is really excellent. That's something that I always look for when they give you a whole arm. How does that interact with how my real life arm is moving? And they're predicting where the elbow movements are really, really nicely, and it feels right. And that's something that makes it a lot more fun to play as well. You've also, I forgot, in terms of gameplay mechanics, you've got a grappling hook on your left hand, and you can use that in a bunch of different ways, and I'm sure that you can unlock other things. I've already unlocked one extra trait with it, but to begin with, it's mainly used for traversing, so for getting up to high places or swinging down to low places. It's a little bit funky, like there's something in it that breaks the physics slightly. So if you attach to something and then swing down, you don't swing in a natural arc, and like if you press a button, it kind of alters the nature of your swing in an unrealistic fashion. If you leave it alone, if you just step off the edge, it will swing you down nicely. But it's taking me a little while to get used to it, but I don't think I think once I nail it, it's just going to become part of the combat. It's going to become part of the traversal, and I think it's really going to work. There's a lot of time and energy spent on rope physics. You'll see what I mean if you play it. But yeah, well done, Skydance. That's a lot of detail that went into all of the little ropes that hang around after you've shot your grappling hook. There's also cool things, like really intuitive things. Like at one point you shoot your grappling hook onto a drawbridge to lower it, and the tutorial doesn't tell you what to do, but it's instinctive. So you reach out with your other hand to grab the rope, and then you hand over hand yank it down, and there's a bunch of different points like that throughout the game, where you use that grappling hook and then you just do what you would do in real life. You think, okay, well, what would I need to do? And then you try something, you go, great, that works. Oh wow, they've really thought through this. So the other thing that's worth getting to now, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting almost 13 minutes to get to this, is the boss battles, the behemoths. So I've only done one. I actually don't know how many boss battles there are. I don't know if they're all quite different. I've just done the first boss, who is named Shackle-Hide, and I think you know that right from the start, so again, not a spoiler. And it's pretty good. I'm really interested to see how the rest of the boss battles go. I've seen footage of other ones that look quite different. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't usually like boss battles, but it was quite epic. It was not so obvious what you had to do, so you do have to think through, well, what's the process I need to go through, but it's not so complicated that you're left scratching your head. Like if you wait for too long, you've got sort of a narrator character that joins you at some point, and that character will give you a few hints as to what you should do next. It was hard without being impossible. I died once in my first attempt and then cracked it on the second attempt. And this was where I did experience a bit of jank. There was a point where I was climbing up the side of one of these creatures, and then suddenly I just flew up into the air, which was a bit unsettling. But otherwise, it's like, this is cool. Like, if this is what it is, where you're playing an hour and a half of gameplay, and then you get one of these huge epic boss fights where you take down this giant behemoth, it's knowing that you're going towards something as exciting as that's going to keep you motivated to continue playing the normal gameplay loop. And the normal gameplay loop is perfectly great. Like, it's really, really fun. But I think 10 hours of it by itself, it would start to drag. But if you break it up with these huge set pieces, and you've got that excitement of knowing that the next one of them is coming up, I think it's a great little bit of carrot and stick to keep you moving through the game. Or at least that's what it seems like at this early stage. So there you have it. That's what I have for you as a first impressions of Skydance's Behemoth. I thoroughly recommend it. It's my experience with it over the first hour and a bit has been thoroughly enjoyable. I really am liking it. I would say of the big three, dare I say, I might be enjoying this one the most of the big three. Maybe. We'll see. But it's good. It is really good, and I'm really happy to be able to say, sorry, pardon me, that Skydance have nailed it. Saints and Sinners Retribution was a buggy mess when it launched, and when nobody was getting access right up until the day before, I was super worried that Behemoth was going to come out and be a buggy mess as well. And anything could happen in the back end of this game. I know there is a Day 7 patch for the Quest version of this already scheduled to come out, but based on my hour and 20 minutes worth of gameplay and my completion up to the end of the first boss, I'm finding it not flawless, but excellent. Polished, fun, entertaining, high quality VR. So, there you go. We will discuss it at greater length in our next podcast episode, which I believe will be podcast episode number 9, which you can look forward to hearing sometime very soon. We will schedule that recording for soon. And I guess we will definitely be doing a full review of this one, but given the scope and magnitude of this game, I would expect to probably hold on for about a week or so before we're giving you our full scored thoughts on the completion of this game. But for right now, excellent first impressions, thoroughly enjoy it. If it's in your financial abilities to get it, then get it. Check it out. Use the refund window if you want to, and if you don't want to, don't. Stay, play, and tell us what you think. So, if you've liked this video, please do the thing with the little thumb up button and you go clickety click and I get happy. You can also press the subscribe button so that you can find out all about the next happenings from the 6DOF reviews team. And until next time, happy gaming.